Hey guys, Rosie here.
And Trish.
And welcome back to Let's Talk EA. Last week we had our guest Geneva talking about Indigenous engagement, and now that we have our Trish back, I thought we would go back to that list of principles of good EA and look at monitoring and follow-up. This is actually something that you brought up to the panel, the expert panel that came through Winnipeg a few weeks ago, and I thought, why do you think that monitoring and follow-up should be done better in EA?
I think that monitoring is a really important part of environmental assessment. Basically, just because a project gets approved doesn't mean that the public should lose interest in what's happening. And in fact, some of our research shows that they have a real need to find out what happens on the ground. The problem is, in a lot of environmental assessment legislation, monitoring requirements are not mandatory. And as a result, the public doesn't often have access to the types of information that they need.
How do you think that projects should be monitored?
When you do an environmental assessment, companies should be required to submit monitoring plans. And those plans should cover at least 4 different areas. So first, you want to have monitoring for compliance. And basically what that is to make sure that the company lives up to its obligations under the leases and licenses that the government issues. The second area is monitoring for effects. So here, a company should pick a couple of the valued ecosystem components for their project, and they should figure out what's happening with those valued ecosystem components in relation to their project. So a specific caribou species or a waterway, something that's really important to the policy community. The third area is monitoring for learning. And here, basically, we know we don't have perfect information about the world. And so monitoring for learning is identifying 1 or 2 areas that we need to get more information about. Perhaps on-the-ground climate change predictions would be a good aspect. And so companies should be asked to create experiments to find out what the impacts are on the ground. And the final area is called post hoc evaluation, which is a fancy title for saying, did we get the environmental assessment right? So post hoc evaluation asks companies to go back, about 5 years after approval to find out if the predictions in the impact statement were correct. So those 4 types of monitoring programs should be part of project approval.
Well, the expert panel is still taking submissions on the review. And so I thought for this week's action item, how about you let them know that you want monitoring and follow-up included in environmental assessment?
That's a great idea. And it would be really good to specify that you want mandatory requirements for monitoring and follow-up. Because again, what we have right now is optional. Just to remind you, they're accepting submissions until December 23rd.
Right before Christmas. Perfect. Well, let's end it there for this week, and until next time, let's talk EA.